And to that piece of lieutenant that's always on his podcast, bash us, him.
All right, attention to roll call.
That's right, everybody. Good morning. 8:05 live Eastern Time, 5:05 Pacific Time in the West Coast, bright and early. It's dark outside for me, brother. Listen, good morning, everybody. Just a reminder, we want your vision. We want your design. Put on a mug for us, please. Just put on a mug here. Get your design. New York's Finest Trying to Filter podcast. You come up with something that... Please just put on a mug here. Get your design. New York's Finest Trying to Filter podcast. I don't know how that just happened.
You all right? What is that, your Starlink acting up?
I had the volume down on my phone and everything. But anyway, please come up with a design. We really appreciate it. And if we like it, we're going to send you a mug free, and then we're going to sell on Printify. And you say, hey, that's my design that I took care of for New York's Finest Trying to Filter podcast. So, John, what's up, brother?
Nothing, bro. I hope everybody had a safe Halloween. A lot of shit happened last night. A lot of stuff. Fortunate mass shooting in Orlando. We'll get into that. But I think we should open up with the New York State Trooper who was shot 2 nights ago on Southern State Parkway. He's okay, thank God. He made it out of surgery. He's well. But the gunman's still on the loose. And I think it's just, we talk about it a lot, working alone. But I don't think it matters if you're working alone or not. I think the same principles apply. I obviously think you should be at a much more heightened stance when you are by yourself. I don't think any cop in New York should work alone. Not a state trooper, not a highway cop, not a traffic cop. I'm just not a fan of it at all. I don't think in this day and age that any cop anywhere in this country should work alone. I don't know. How do you feel about that? How do you feel about guys working alone?
I actually said it yesterday in the prior episode. I've said it constantly. I don't care how much training you have or how much experience you have as a police officer. No cop, no cop anywhere in this country, anywhere. I don't care if you're in the most rural area and there's a extremely low population. No cop should work alone. You need more eyes. You need more hands. At any point, if there's something that you're going to miss, you need someone else to pick that up. Absolutely. Especially if you're going to engage into a gun battle. There's so many factors where you need someone else. Absolutely. No cop should work alone ever at all.
Yeah, I agree. So let's get into this article and we'll talk about it a little bit. So a New York State Trooper who was shot Wednesday night during a traffic stop on Long Island had emergency surgery as cops continue the massive manhunt for the gunman. Trooper Thomas Macia, who was hit in the leg on the Southern State Parkway near exit 17 on or about 11:30 p.m. 2 nights ago, was in good spirits Thursday after his operation at Nassau University Medical Center, according to Nassau County Executive Bruce Blakeman. I wanted to see if he was okay and if he needed anything, Blakeman told the Post on Thursday. He's doing well. He's in good spirits. He came out of surgery with flying colors. We are very grateful it wasn't worse news. The unidentified gunman, who's still on the loose, shot the 27-year-old Macia as he approached the suspect's black Dodge Charger, which was parked on the Parkway's medium in West Hempstead, ABC7 reported. Shots fired, I'm hit. I think my kneecap is broken, Macia said on the police radio, according to CBS News. Macia, who thought the driver needed help, wrote down the car's license plate before he got out of the cruiser. This trooper, his one and only intention was to help someone who appeared to need help, State Police Major Eddie U. Dice said at a Thursday press conference. He got out of the car. He walked up to this car with full intention of helping them. He continued, and he became the target for them. They started firing rounds at him. This is unacceptable. After hearing the crackle of gunfire and realizing one of the bullets had struck him in the leg, Macia dove behind the patrol car as the shooter took off headed west. He was able to retrieve his first aid bag and tend his own wounds, State Police Superintendent Steve James said. Another trooper responded to the shooting call and brought Macia to the hospital where he had surgery on his wounded leg. Authorities described the suspect's car as a black sedan with custom matte gray dual exhaust tips and the license plate tag 997636 Tom. Macia didn't fire back at his attacker, who authorities said likely fled into New York City. The shooting sparked an ongoing search for the suspect vehicles, cops said. Meanwhile, the Troopers Police Union, which represents 7,000 officers, issued a statement condemning the shooting and saying the perpetrator must be brought to swift justice. We are sickened by the actions of this cowardly individual who thought nothing of shooting a trooper who was simply doing his job, the statement said. We thank the medical providers who are providing our brother with the care he needs, and we will support him as he makes the hope in a speeding recovery. The incident underscores the dangers of our members face bravely every day in service of all New York, and is a reminder that any interaction that has potential to turn deadly, the PBA continued. This must serve as a call to action for our state leaders to work closely with our union to ensure the safety of PBA members and the public they protect and serve. All right. So what are your initial thoughts, Eric, on this?
Yeah, so it's interesting, right? When we get to the end of the article, where we need a call to action for our legislators to appreciate our police officers, we need laws enacted that actually protect police officers and support. Sounds beautiful. Sounds beautiful. But we hear that all the time. This is a word salad that we constantly hear. Every time a police officer is involved in an incident where the police officer is vulnerable and unfortunately under attack, or a police officer is shot, or they're embattled in some type of tussle, and a police officer is injured, then we hear support for the police officers. But this stuff goes very short-lived, and everyone has short memories. We'll probably hear from some of the politicians. We'll hear, best to the officers. We hope the officers are safe. At the same time, they're still creating more proposals and more legislation that actually handicaps police officers throughout the entire state of New York and the entire country, anywhere that is Democratic policies and Democratic socialist politicians. So, again, it sounds great, but will this change anything? Absolutely not. And we also have to look at is, what is this particular perpetrator outstanding for? For him to actually take a shot before he actually encountered the trooper, leads me to believe maybe he's wanted for a homicide. There's something bigger here, obviously. But again, going back to our legislators, it's going to be short-lived. Legislators have short memories, and even cops have short memories. I will say this. It's quite impressive in New York State right now with the amount of the corruption probe that we have that trickles through the entire state, not just New York City, trickles through the entire state, and the amount of the lack of support that police officers get throughout the entire state, that they're still doing self-initiated police work, which falls under intrusive police work, which falls under broken windows. So I'm surprised they're still doing it, but hats off to that police officer, and I wish him well.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a lot of things here. There's a lot of things I think to talk about here. So one, who's asking? Mark the Mock. Did the state trooper union donate to Dems too? 100% they did. They supported Governor Kathy Hochul's run for governor. They supported Governor Cuomo's run, heavily involved in leftist Democrat politics. Like I said, when often we go after the unions that are connected to the NYPD, but I think we've done a pretty bad job at highlighting how bad the unions around New York State are. With the exception of the Suffolk Union, I think that they came out right away. They endorsed Donald Trump for president. I think they're pretty vocal about their officers. I don't think they hide behind the fact that they're police officers and they support the rank and file of their union. Everyone else, it's when things like this happen, they come out with these strong statements. But like Eric said, memory short. So, all right, so the car, it sounds like, is pulled over on the side of the road, right? You're on the Southern State Parkway. It's obviously a busy parkway. For those of you that live in New York or have family that live in Long Island, like I did, I would have to drive out, sit in traffic, sit in the BQE, sit on the belt, driving out there. So I'm getting myself to the Southern State. You're driving out there. You're like, oh, my God. But it's a pretty busy area, and I think this was at like 11:30 p.m. at night. Definitely traffic alleviates there, but it's not gone. There's still cars there, so it's not real prone to violence other than, it's very dangerous pulling over on the side of a highway, right? Cars coming by, things of that nature. So I think when you see a vehicle like that, and I think what happened was the car was pulled over and he went to go see if the car needed help. Now, he wrote the license plate down before approaching it, but it doesn't say that he put it over the radio. And I think, I don't know that he did or he didn't, but I think we need to highlight that here. And I think we need to highlight the importance of that. And again, I don't care if it's two of you or there's only one of you. it's very important to put over what you're doing at the radio because look, this guy felt safe, right? On the side, you're worried about traffic more than you're probably worried about what they're doing in this car. You're a police officer. You're always going to have your wits about you and still, move tactically towards the vehicle, not put yourself in the line of fire. But I think it's very important in this day and age that you're documenting everything and you're putting it over the radio because in a different scenario, let's say he walks up, he's by himself or you're together. And for some reason, people open fire on you and you both become unconscious immediately. Nobody knows where you are. Nobody knows what you were doing. You could potentially still have the ability to survive that if you put it over the radio. Because what'll happen is Central, after a while, will start to raise you up. And if she's not hearing anything, she's going to send units to you. And if she's still not hearing anything, they're going to make it a 1013. They're going to send cops and they're going to send ambulances to you. So it's very, very important that we're putting over the radio the description of the vehicle. Obviously, this officer's sharp. He remembers that the car has matted exhaust tips on it. He remembers the plate. He wrote the plate down. But I think that would have helped initially because they probably had to go back to his car because another state trooper came there, brought him to the hospital. So somebody probably had to get the keys to his car, drive back to the car. I wrote it down. He probably said they had to go all the way back there when that plate could have been over the air immediately. And that could have been transitioned over to everywhere, over to New York City. That information could have been put in plate readers throughout the city. And I think that these perpetrators would have gotten caught sooner. But bigger than that, I think you putting that over the radio is potentially going to save your own life. So I think that's very important to highlight. I think that's just what I wanted to highlight out of this.
What's interesting about this also is, so I think tradition, if you look at just the years of policing when it comes to state troopers, especially New York, New Jersey, just look at state troopers throughout the country. They've always had this kind of mystique where people were really intimidated and there was a sense of fear when it came to state troopers. Even for other cops, I mean, I can't speak for you, John, but even for myself, the appearance of a state trooper, they always had the appearance of professionalism, uniform, super sharp. Usually the guys are in shape and they kind of fit the part. That doesn't mean that they could actually handle themselves, but they had the appearance of it. So it goes back to what I've always been saying, how important appearance is with police officers. But even right now, because there's no support with police officers throughout the entire country, that even a state trooper is faced with such adversary, because, unfortunately, the country has taken a huge shift and police officers aren't getting any respect. But, unfortunately, I think that mystique that the state troopers had throughout the entire country, especially New York, I think is gone. And unfortunately, police are not getting respect throughout the entire country. And there's no more of that aura, that sense of fear when it comes to policing, especially when it comes to troopers. I think they did always have that mystique and they always had that great appearance. I'm sure a lot of our friends and listeners could attest to what I'm saying. If you've ever been pulled over by a state trooper, it's kind of intimidating, right? They're usually very sharp, walk up to that car in a specific manner, not kind of gingerly and gangly like, unfortunately, sometimes some city cops. Don't get me wrong, city cops are outstanding, but there is a sense of appearance there. What are your thoughts on that, John?
100%. I mean, state troopers are definitely intimidating. I mean, when you look at the state trooper, I don't remember ever seeing an out-of-state trooper ever out of shape. I never remember seeing it. But even when I'm in Florida, from passing through Georgia or Maryland or wherever, if I'm at a road stop, I always take note of the troopers and what they look like. I always slow down if I see them doing anything, or I always make sure I get on a lane away from them. I slow down, because I know how dangerous that is. And I always see them very sharp, very in shape, very about the business. I drive like an old lady, so I don't get pulled over much. So like I really don't speed. So I rarely get pulled over. I'm usually in the right lane. People are probably beeping at me. I'm listening to the oldies driving down the road, minding my own business with the windows open, taking my time. So I haven't had really many interactions with a state trooper other than at work related, or, in a friendly manner, not where I was being pulled over by them. But yeah, I think that they're totally sharp. I think they're on their game. And I think they're a good representative of how officers should keep themselves in shape and keep their uniforms in shape, and their vehicles too, because their vehicles are always sharp, whether it's a motorcycle or the car's always pristine, and I think it tells a lot about a man, the way he dresses, the way he takes care of himself, the way his body looks, I think. And for women too, I think it tells a lot about who you are. Unfortunately, this situation happens at night. I think a lot of those factors don't matter. You're walking up to a car. God only knows what they had in the car, if they're wanted for something. That stuff will be revealed later on down the road. I'm fully confident that the car will be found and the perpetrators will be found. I think, as much as we can knock the leadership of the NYPD, the leadership of the unions, the leadership of the other politically appointed police departments that have managers around New York State and around the Northeast, I still think the average rank and file, I think the NYPD still does a great job. I think that they'll absolutely get these perpetrators. And the other thing I just want to note, they're on the Southern State Parkway, which is, it's easy to know where you are there, right? I'm on the Southern State. I'm by exit 17, but you really have to take note of that. I think now with the GPS age, I even notice myself sometimes. I'm driving down a block and I'm like, oh my God, I don't know where I am. Because if I didn't have this GPS right here, I don't know where I am. And, you got to think, when me and Eric started, when we became cops, we both got sent to Staten Island. And Staten Island's not like Brooklyn, right? It's not like, oh, I'm on 68th Street and I got to get to 72nd Street and 3rd Avenue, but I'm on 68th and 5th. Staten Island's not like that. I don't care what precinct you're in. We were in the 120. It's named streets. So unless you're on a main road, you don't even know where you're going. So what we were taught, shout out to Dennis Myra and John Fitzgibbon, what we were taught is they would drive around sometimes at high speeds, whip through the streets of Staten Island, looking for criminality, and then they would just slam the gas. They would slam the brake in the middle of a block and be like, where are we? I don't know. Yeah, you're dead. You're dead. You don't know where you are? You're dead. Slam the gas. You're dead. And so what they taught us to do was, on every block that we're at, is take note of the street sign. Take note of the street sign that you're at. Take note as you're turning the car. Take note of the street sign. Take note of the street sign. Take note of the house that you're pulling up to, the house number. Take note. Always know where you are. And I think the GPS is leaving us in a bad direction, to where we're not doing that anymore as a society. I know I still do it because honestly, I could never forget that lesson. And when me and Eric came out, we used to have maps. We had maps to find out. A call would come over. I would cut up a map of my precinct, and I would laminate it, and I would put it on a key ring, and I would hang it on the gear shifter of the car. And every cop I worked with had the same thing. And there were times we would both go, where the hell is that block? I don't know. I'd take it off the key ring, look. But more importantly than even to get somewhere is to know where you are. Because maybe you do turn that corner. Maybe you do turn that corner and boom, 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 there's a shooting happening right in front of you. What are you doing? You have to get out. You have to engage, right? But nobody knows where you are. You have no ability to put it over the radio because you don't know where you are. So I think the first thing that we've learned in policing was to always know where we are, and the power and the importance of the radio and utilizing it and let people knowing where you are. And I just feel like the GPS, we're getting away from that. I'm not knocking anyone. I'm doing it myself. And I'm trying to break that habit, actually. So
I just want to say, first of all, I'm glad that you mentioned that. So I want to give a shout out to them also. Dennis Myra and John Fitzgibbons that are in retirement. I mean, they retired way before we did. But I want to just say that, just to show the emasculation of the police department right now and how we lost all the veterans, I never realized back then. I didn't realize how good of training officers they were, because if you remember, they were hilarious. Dennis Meyer and John Fitzgibbons, they would have me laughing all day. I just laughed so much, and I didn't realize how good of training officers they actually were until years later. Because they would do stunts like just drive like maniacs and stop, like, all right, where are you? Or, drop you off at some building and just drive away and then come back like a half hour later. You have any idea where you are? Or I remember sometimes, I'd be driving into work and Dennis Meyer would just fly past me. He'd already be at work. He'd be in the van and giving me the finger. And then, just to see how you react. And like, they actually were good training officers. They did a great job. They made it fun, but they would train you at the same time. We don't have these veteran officers anymore. We don't have veteran officers to teach the young how to do policing. And I don't mean young in age, but just to teach rookie police officers how to do the job. It's so funny you say that, right? Just how things evolve and how things have changed. I mean, they've changed so vast that when we started the job, we all had cell phones, but you weren't allowed to use them. I mean, so back then you relied on your intelligence. You relied working as a team. That was so important. Always location. That was the first thing. Anytime, especially working in housing. We worked in the 112 precinct, but pretty much we were housing. We were working in Stapleton housing, and we were working in Park Hill, which is privatized, but it's run just like housing. And you had to know exactly where you were, and you learned a lot. So I want to say shout out to those two. Really, I hope you're enjoying your retirement. Those guys were good, and they made it fun too. I mean, I laughed my asses off.
Yeah, and then it just goes to like so for the cops. I think the lesson here is we're thankful that nothing happened to the state trooper, and I think the lesson here is just. And I'm not saying he didn't do that. It just doesn't appear that he did do that. But whatever you're about to do, let everybody know what you're going to do. I know it's annoying. I know you're putting it over the radio. You're going to have to put it in your memo book, your digital memo book now. I know it's annoying. I get it. You're going to have to document that also on your body-worn camera video and the metadata. I get it. It's annoying. But this is what you're getting paid to do. And it's potentially going to save your life. It's just good habits. It's nobody wants to wake up at 4:00 in the morning and start lifting weights. Nobody wants to do it. But guess what? When you do it for 3 years, and then you're like, oh man, I'm so glad that I wake up at 4:00 in the morning and I start to lift weights. And then it's the small habits. They become second nature, and then it's just second nature to you, and you don't even know you're doing it anymore. You're like, all right, this is what I did. I did this. I did that, and I think. Developing good habits is the key to having a safe career in policing, on the streets, doing that. So we have to know where we are and always put over what we're about to do. Thankfully, the state trooper is going to be okay. But again, if we would have had that plate on the air quicker, I think we would have already had him apprehended immediately. I think that that perpetrator would have been apprehended immediately, and thankfully that didn't happen. So I think that's the lesson there. It's kind of what I wanted to highlight out of it. I think that we are breaking away. I know myself. I noticed myself doing that, and I fight with myself constantly about that. I noticed myself doing that because at one point they put GPS in our cars because the streets are so confusing, and unfortunately. Younger generation doesn't really know how to read maps. I still have my laminated map on the key ring. Obviously, it's outdated, right? Because all these neighborhoods have popped up, but it was just something that cops did. Older cops taught me to do it. I do still try to buy a map here and there and keep it in my car. My brother-in-law and my sister-in-law, actually, they were driving and they got stuck. They were going to a Clemson game, go see my brother-in-law's nephew. Right. So they were going to a Clemson game, senior year. They're driving through there, but it's the weekend of the hurricane. And they get caught in a massive storm. Phones go down. Nothing's working. GPS on the car goes down. They have no idea where they are. Zero. And so my wife always makes fun of me. I keep in my truck a map. And I said, and they didn't know where they were. They were driving through Carolinas. They have no service. They can't even get gas because all the gas pumps don't have electricity to them. And I was like, oh, see, when they told us the story, I was like, see, you make fun of me about the map, but I would have just said, where are we? I would have broke out my map and opened it up. I don't need that GPS.
First of all, I just want to say hats off. I actually saw a picture of that state trooper, going through different articles, and he actually fit exactly what I expected. Pretty chiseled, looks pretty hardcore. These guys make a great appearance. They really take care of themselves. I met quite a few police officers, unfortunately, in New York City that decided to leave the NYPD. They wanted to become state troopers, and a lot of them came back. And they came back, and I think it's unfortunate that they came back, because if you wanted to be a state trooper and get that training, I think it's outstanding. But a lot of them came back, unfortunately, and realized how good they had at the NYPD and how much more difficult and intense the training was, just the training itself. I think the NYPD is a different animal than most police departments. I think the NYPD, the training is completely lacking. I think it's inadequate. However, the actual volume of work that NYPD police officers do on a daily basis is so vast, much more than anyone in this entire country, right? Even more than LA. It's so dense, the volume that goes on in New York City, or more than Chicago. Just even when nothing's going on, you're always doing something. So that itself is a byproduct of why I believe NYPD officers are so good. You constantly engage with the public. So you get hands-on training. I even was talking to someone yesterday. They were talking about the video on our podcast yesterday, John, about the two police officers fighting in the 4-6 precinct. And they said I was talking to someone in an RV park, and like, wow, I'm really surprised that the NYPD police officers are not getting martial arts training or more training. How are they so effective at handling tussles in the street for the most part? Because in the most part, the NYPD does win. And I said, because it's a byproduct. They're out there every day. So most NYPD police officers do a great job. They handle themselves. They don't have formal martial arts training, but it's a byproduct, because most police officers are involved in numerous tussles. I mean, unfortunately, they train you on two different spectrums, right? You're trained on this person who's compliant, how to handle someone that's completely compliant. It's almost like a bookend. And then we have the other end of the spectrum, where police officers are trained to handle life and death situations, an adversary with a knife, an adversary with a firearm. But it's the middle ground that gets missed. It's those tussles, those situations where you really need wrestling, jiu-jitsu, boxing. You need some formal training. That part is missed. But because police officers are handling such a vast amount of volume when it comes to New York City, that's a byproduct that they learn. So that's why I was saying yesterday, if you're an NYPD police officer and you can get trained once a week, or once every week and a half to 2 weeks, it's much better what you're getting right now, because of the volume that you're out there. This will only be supplemental and help you and just make you better. So again, do I expect every police officer to be super chiseled? I mean, New York State Troopers, it's a much smaller department. No, but I expect you to be the best version of yourself. You want to be able to take care of yourself and handle yourself in a situation. And God forbid, unfortunately, we've seen it. We've seen numerous police officers and detectives in the NYPD that have been involved in those tussle situations, and they were not taking care of themselves, and they died by heart attack. So I think that's completely tragic. I mean, we don't want any police officer to die, but to die by heart attack because you did not take care of yourself, and you were overweight, and you weren't eating right, and not properly taking care of yourself, you have to do it. It takes an extreme amount of discipline. Even myself, I get up every morning at 4 o'clock in the morning. For me, I'm on the West Coast right now. So we filmed this at 5:05 for myself. So sometimes I would say, man, it's still dark out. How do I keep myself awake? So I just started doing push-ups every morning. And next thing I know, I realized I was doing push-ups this morning. I'm like, man, they're getting easier. I'm like flying through, like getting to like 60, at no problem. Like, wow. And it just creeped up. So it just takes discipline. It just takes desire. You have to have the one. Just can't be lazy. You can't be comfortable in life. The second that you let yourself be comfortable, that's when you're dead. You got to always be uncomfortable, challenge yourself, and that's how you get better.
100%. And then on the other end of it, I see a lot of comments on here, and shout out to everybody on here. We got 246 people on here. Guys, if you could just do us a favor and share out, like, subscribe if you haven't already. Our accounts have been decimated, and we're just not getting the reach. Yesterday I looked. Normally, like if I put something out on Twitter, I mean, it goes into like at least the 30,000 range of views. I think every tweet I put out yesterday, it was under 300 views. So obviously the consistent attacks of false allegations of copyright that I can't even fight back on, which is insane, have decimated our accounts. So we're just not getting the reach that we were. So if you guys could just like and share out, just help us break it. It'll come back, but it doesn't really matter. I'm gonna be here anyway, regardless. Whether there's 2 of you in the room or there's 20,000, it doesn't matter. So it doesn't matter. We'll be doing this. So
shout out to that, brother.
So I think the other end, like a lot of the comments in here, there's a lot of comments about, oh, you know, state troopers, they're revenue generators, this, that, the other thing. And, you know, I'm going to say right now, I've encountered in my life a lot of cops that I'm not a fan of. I still see on video cops that I'm not fans of. With that being said, I always go back to the advice of my father. These guys are scared. Rightfully so they are. Look what happens to them. Look what happens when they go over to try to help someone. He thinks the guy's stranded, and next thing he knows, he's getting shot at. So look what happens. You can't blame people being on edge when they're walking up to your car. So they're not going to be, cops aren't going to come off friendly to you. They're not supposed to. Again, you got to realize the situation you're in. So what you should be doing is trying to alleviate his fears. And what I've always done is I put my interior lights on, I roll all my windows down, and I keep my hands on the steering wheel. I did that when I was an active law enforcement officer. I did that before I was a law enforcement officer. I did that. I do that now as a retired man, even with my family in the car. The last thing I want to do is make this guy nervous and put myself into a situation where now I have a loaded firearm pointed at me. It's the last thing that I want to do. And I think we should all think about put yourself in that situation that you're approaching a car late at night, you're by yourself, maybe you're with someone else, or you don't know what they thought or why they're pulling you over. Sometimes sometimes cops run plates. I've ran plates and it came back that the car was stolen and it wasn't. I've actually had a car that was stolen in a citywide robbery pattern right in front of me, and I knew it was, and I had the guy in handcuffs, and I had all the people in handcuffs, and I had everything they had in the car out. And I put it over 911, the plate. I already knew I had them. I knew what there was. There's a citywide robbery pattern. I knew everything before we went out that night. Bam, we catch them in our precinct that night. Put it over the radio. Nope. Car's not stolen. I'm like, I know this car's stolen. There's no way this car's not stolen. I'm calling Central. She's like, it's not stolen. It's not stolen. So I'm like, I don't care. We're taking them in for the weapons. We're taking them in for the weapons. Then the other sergeants on scene is like, we don't got nothing. I was like, I know this car's stolen. I was like, I don't care what she says. I just ran it before we came out. Nothing changed. It was late at night. There's nothing that's changing overnight. No one's updating the system in the middle of the night. It's not happening. I'm like, this car is stolen. We got into a little back and forth on the scene. And sure enough, about 15 minutes in, when I have everyone going back anyway, Central's like, 10-1. And she's like, sure enough, that car's stolen. Sure enough, that is the car that's wanted in the citywide robbery pattern. So you don't know what they're being told. You don't know what they're looking for. So I just recommend that if you get pulled over, put your lights on, shut your engine off. Make sure you roll all your windows down first. Roll all your windows down. Put your interior lights on. Shut your engine off. Keep your hands where everybody can see them. Just take the fear out of it. If you didn't get a chance, I don't even fumble for my wallet. I don't, because I don't want them to think that I was doing anything. So if I get pulled over, I keep my hands on the steering wheel and they come over. I'm like, officer, I have my ID in my left pocket. Is it all right if I get my ID? I'll give it to you. I'm like, my registration's here. Is it all right if I get it? And I move slow. Because again, I don't want to get shot for no reason. And I understand that these guys are scared. And some of them are overzealous. And like we said on here, not everyone's fit to be a cop. Being a cop's a very hard job. You have to read in every situation. There's 1,000 data points, maybe more. And most people are only capable of reading 1 or 2 at one time. So, it's just the nature of the beast. And you just got to be careful when you're out there.
Yeah, and I tell you what, those skills that you learn as a cop, you don't want to let them peril, because I do think they'll let them peril if you don't actually stay on top of them. Because even in the afterlife of the NYPD and retirement, I still try to maintain, still pay attention to detail, still be meticulous. I noticed myself, I was hanging out with a couple of buddies yesterday, guys from jiu-jitsu, and we were just, I remember we were in a restaurant, and we're like, oh, did you see that? I forgot what it was, but I was telling them, did you see that? Some kind of picture or something, like something that was pretty cool. Like, oh, no, I didn't see that. So just things that we see as cops that other people don't see. I mean, I think that we look at a room differently. Most people, when they walk into a room, they go to their actual destination, even if it's just a restaurant, sit down. But I do believe cops, when you walk into a room, you actually canvass and you look at the depth of that room before you actually sit down. You approach things much differently in the way you look at the appearance of a room. So, yeah, absolutely. Hats off to the state troopers also, and hats off to NYPD cops. It's a different animal, both different jobs. And I think the rank and file of policing in general throughout the entire country does a great job. And when we talk about failures, predominantly most of the failures, they come by leadership. They come by leadership in any organization, but especially when it comes to law enforcement, especially present day right now as we speak. Absolutely.
Yeah, so I think that's a good segue into talking about failed leadership, talking about real lack of leadership, and just real stupidity amongst who's appointed in the NYPD. The appointed management. Again, like sometimes we go back on the word leadership and it's just not there. I just haven't seen it. So Christmas came early this morning. Christmas came early, November 1st. I got my Christmas present this morning, and here you go, people. John Shell. This is I think it's a LinkedIn post. I don't know what or this could be. Yeah, it looks like it's a LinkedIn post to me. Hey, everyone. This is from John Shell. This is from his official account. So I just want to let you know, if you're on social media, technically you're operating a business. You're promoting yourself. So John Shell uses his official NYPD Chief of Patrol account to promote his own personal social media account. Here we go. Hey, everyone. Just wanted to post my personal new X account and my existing NYPD X account. Although I'm a law enforcement officer and are bound by department rules on my NYPD account and on your personal, John, in case you forgot, I now have a personal account. My personal account is my constitutional First Amendment right to speak my mind. I won't be silenced. Please follow me and hopefully some enlightening conversations. Thank you all. So that's his handle, John M. Shell, at John M. Shell. I think you should guys get over there and follow him. I think it's going to be interesting. I don't know how much free speech he's willing to actually utilize. I did repost it. Tell everybody to share him. Eric, what do you think about John Shell getting a personal account, one, and what do you think about him promoting it on his official department account?
It violates social media policy for the NYPD. There's no doubt about it. It violates the policy. He knows it, and it's pretty. He's taunting he's taunting social media viewers, and he's actually projecting to this podcast. Also, he's definitely projecting to us. Talk about First Amendment speech. Sure, didn't John Shell say a while ago there won't be a mute button? The only First Amendment speech that was trying to be suppressed was the NYPD trying to suppress the First Amendment speech of this podcast, trying to suppress John and myself from retirement with the attacks that we received from the upper echelon of the police department with the nexus to the khaki pants unit, trying to shut down this podcast. I think this is absolutely unprofessional. Him using this from an NYPD account, showing the nexus between his personal account and the NYPD account, and it definitely violates social media policy. Absolutely. Again, John Shell is the reason that these wackos in New York City Council think that the NYPD actually needs legislation that bars them from saying certain things that actually impedes on their First Amendment speech because of unprofessionalism like John Shell. So again, where are the other chiefs to stand up to say, hey, buddy, this violates social media policy for our department? Again, it goes back to what I've always been saying. People always say the job sucks. And I say, well, who is the job? You know who the job is? The job is people. And it's not the rank and file, I believe. I know you and I spoke about this the other day. I believe the job are the chiefs of the upper echelon of the police department because they actually enact policy. They can change policy. They have the power to change the trajectory of the police department. They're the job. So when you say the job sucks, you're saying that they suck. So get all these bums out. John Shell is a bum. Every other chief that doesn't stand up is a bum. This is completely unprofessional. I thought it was going to be one mouthpiece for the police department, but apparently the one mouthpiece is from Kaz Daughtry and John Shell, and now they want to utilize personal accounts to project themselves within the police department. Unprofessional.
Yeah. So one thing who's saying it on here? The Crazy 107 says that's his angry statement. I'm out in January with my fat counterpart Jeff. Yeah, I think you're beginning to see him transition, and that's why he's using his personal account. I do think John Shell is potentially leaving the door open. I know that obviously you see that he has a very close relationship with Newsmax, but I think that you see that he's beginning to start to try to propel his voice potentially for a political run. I think that if John Shell runs in New York City, I think he'll get a lot of support. I think he'll get a lot of support from moderates, conservatives, and possibly even a lot of Democrats because he is so politically confused, and he is good at he is good presenting to low information people. I say it all the time. I meet people all the time and I talk to people all the time that are friends with John Shell, that love John Shell, that think he's a good guy. I can't attest to that based upon what has happened with myself and Eric. We started off actually, I don't want to say we were fans of John Shell, but we started off thinking that he was, he was the police and things of that nature. But I just think as we get further in, I just see that he's more and more politically confused. So, but I do think he would win a lot of votes with low information voters across New York City. And when I look at the mayoral pool of candidates now, as much as I don't like John Shell, as much as I think the potential for corruption is there with John Shell, I think he turned a blind eye to it. I think the incompetence is ripe with him. I think he's a megalomaniac. I think he's a narcissist. I think he exhibits a lot of the same traits that Eric Adams does. I got to say right now, with the pool of candidates, if John Shell threw his name in the hat, I would bite my lips and bear it. And I think that he potentially would probably be the only person that I could see that I could potentially, not that I would get behind him, but that I could even see as a viable candidate for mayor of New York City.
Well, again, I think, first of all, I want to say this. I don't think John Shell is a good guy at all. I think that John Shell is full of shit. And I think that he bamboozles the public. He gaslights them. He does a great job, though, at it. He does a great job at bamboozling the public and gaslighting them and trying to box in this perception and change your truth, towing that line. He definitely is politically confused. I definitely think he's a MAGA guy at home. I think at work he panders to Eric Adams and panders to his whole movement because it's completely self-serving. It's obvious. It's definitely apparent and obvious he's looking for a political run. He's looking to project himself. And I just think he's completely full of crap. I don't think he's a good guy at all. I think he's a complete bum. To actually allow the upper echelon, to actually allow himself and Kaz Daughtry and the khaki pantsuit to attack this podcast for our free speech, and then he's saying the same thing, he's a complete loser. He's a bum. I would never get behind him. But I can understand why people get behind him. Because if you don't know him and you just scratch at the surface, it looks great on the surface. Oh, here's a guy that wants to fight for the police. Here's a guy that he's willing to go out there and actually chase these bad guys and have his guys get involved in that. And maybe at some point, some people think we need reckless cowboys with the amount of crime that we have, but absolutely not. It's just completely unprofessional. The piss and matches that he has with these journalists, and including this podcast, is just a terrible representation of the NYPD. No longer are we the goat of policing because it's people like John Shell that have just completely deteriorated the police department and deteriorated the vision and the framework that we have for the NYPD. So I would not get behind him, and I still hold it against him. I learned that in Marine Corps, an accidental discharge is stupidity. So the bottom line is for him to say he took someone's life by accidentally, that means he was completely stupid and lacked training, or he did it on purpose. It's only one or the other. Don't tell me it's an accident. It's absolutely ridiculous. VSS Ventores, thank you, brother. I appreciate the coffee and donuts. John Shell's the Armando Benitez of the NYPD. Lost and clueless on the mound, getting obliterated left and right. Outstanding, brother. And I saw you also made a comment earlier, just comments are flying in, about the state troopers being the Marines of PD. Absolutely. They're definitely sharp. And I appreciate your comments, and I appreciate the coffee and the donuts. John.
Yeah, thanks, VSS and Torres. We appreciate it. His background's kind of interesting. His background's very interesting. I don't know if you guys could see that, but if you could see the eagle and the flag on my arm, his background's very, very interesting. Definitely looks at my back forearm tattoo, an eagle wrapped in an in an American flag. So it's very interesting that you would pick that as your background, especially that the constitutionality and just the literal understanding of the law. I don't think that this administration has it. I don't think John Shell sees it. I just don't. But I'll say one thing about John Shell. I think that he is conservative at home. I think on the streets, because he's working for Eric Adams, he's a woke progressive. But I do think wholly that he is a conservative. You could hear in his speech, you could hear when he's on conservative media. So that they're talking prior to that. That he's a conservative. That I've been saying forever, that he's a Trump guy, he's a MAGA guy. That's why we consistently had that. And what we're seeing in New York is the person who has fundraised the most at this point. We have Brad Lander. We have another socialist. I can't even pronounce his name right now. I got to hear someone say it before I even mangle it to say it. But there's about 5 candidates: Scott Stringer, Jessica Ramos, and I'm literally hearing that oh, we're gonna make the buses free. We're gonna make prostitution legal. It's like, what? These are the issues in New York City. This is what you guys are gonna do. And so I said it this morning. I said, when we had the communist Bill de Blasio in. And somebody and all the Bill de Blasio supporters jump on me and they're like, "Oh, how is he a communist?" I'm like, he said that our mission is to redistribute the wealth. It's like a quote right out of Karl Marx. He vacationed, he honeymooned in Soviet Russia when you weren't allowed to go there. I mean, if you telling me that this guy's not a communist. So I said, we had the communist Bill de Blasio. I didn't think it was going to get worse. Then we get the progressive, highly incompetent, and highly corrupt Eric Adams. And I said, it can't get worse. But then I'm listening to this interview with Errol Lewis and this mayoral candidate, and he's talking about his platform as free New York City buses. And I'm like, oh, I think it's going to get worse, people. I think it's absolutely going to get worse. And on the John Shell, Kaz Daughtry is going to be the police commissioner. He's got to put his boss there. John Shell, although he was a cop, let's face it, the only reason John Shell is in the ranks he is he rode Jeffrey Madry's coattails all the way up. He was the muscle for this whole dream team, for the Gotham brothers, for whatever Eric Adams tells him to do, he will do, regardless of the constitutionality of it, regardless of the legality of it, and regardless how anti-American it is. He's going to do it, and not only is he going to do it, he's going to go up on the news media and he's going to praise it.
And I don't think that at any point, I don't think we were wrong, John. I think that John Shell would have been the fall guy for a lot of tactics and operational procedures going on with the police department if it wasn't for this corruption probe that came out, especially with Ed Guman being the fall guy at this time. You and I both said that John Shell would be the fall guy when it came to vehicle pursuits and other tactics by the police department. And I still believe that holds true. I just think that it was deflected because of what's going on with the corruption probe. And also, particularly with Ed Guman. So I think John Shell definitely skated out. This is a good time for him to get out. If he wants to, hedge his bets, I think this is the opportunity for him to get out. Rich Raj, thank you so much. $10. Get more coffee over here on this podcast. Good morning, guys. Good morning to you. Rich Raj always put his hand in his pocket. I really appreciate it. You were a great friend, great listener to the podcast. But again, I think that John Shell would have been the fall. I think that he got lucky, and I think this is a great opportunity for him to go. I don't want him to go. I love the content, but he's lucky. At this point, he could go to 233 Broadway because if he keeps waiting, keeps holding on, his luck might not run out. He might head out to 500 Pearl Street. So John Shell should be a lucky man. He had an accidental discharge, according to him, many years ago. He took the life of another. Again, I don't believe it's an accidental discharge. I think it's amazing that someone actually made to chief of patrol by taking the life of another by accidentally shooting them. I've been involved in thousands of gun arrests where perpetrators had the guns in their hands or guns in their waist. And we never had an accidental discharge. That's complete stupidity, lack training. I don't know how you move up in the ranks when you actually take someone's life by accident. At that point, they should have been, listen, time for you to go. vest out, retire, resign, whatever the case is. That would have been the time that he should have went. The bottom line is he took someone's life. It doesn't matter if it's by accident or stupidity. You took someone's life, and it wasn't intentional. According to you, it wasn't intentional. So that's bad police work.
Yeah, 100%. Rich, thank you, brother. Appreciate it. Rich OG, always on here. Thank you. So, all right. I hate to go back onto the and shout out to Christopher Dabrowski, bought a super sticker, $4.99. Appreciate you, Chris. So I hate to go back onto the drones because we spoke about it yesterday. Or the 2 days ago. I'm sorry. We spoke about the drones two shows ago. But then I guess Eric Adams and Kaz Daughtry felt the need to hold a press conference about the drones. So I think we got to go into that press conference just a little bit. There's 330 people on here. We're going to talk about the legality of the drones now and what's going on with these contracts and the amount of money New York City's spending. Because, it's when you listen to this, I think you guys should be shocked. And I want you to take, when Kaz Daughtry speaks, I want you to take the word subway surfing out of it. I want you to replace it with anything critical of the Adams administration. So, because that's basically what's happening. Like I told you before, our accounts are under heavy attack. Our reach on social media is almost non-existent. We're getting copyright infringements for things that we own. It's not even a copyright. And the reporter is Kaz Daughtry. Now, I don't know if it's Kaz Daughtry, and I don't know if it's a bootlicker that they've weaponized to keep their hands clean. But I know it's related to them. I know that it's based upon conversations that they had, that this is a tactic that they're using to diminish the reach of this podcast. Like I've told you before, and you guys have witnessed it with your own eyes, right? I used to go on Newsmax 3 to 4 times a week. I haven't been on there in months, right? They haven't called me in forever. Why is that? Because Kaz Daughtry and John Schell have painted the picture that I am a racist without providing any evidence of such. They just used that. They went to every major media station across New York, across America, and told them that I'm a racist not to have me on. Every show that I go on, the head producer, as well as if they know the owners, get calls, and I've been told this by these people, that they're calling and saying I'm a racist. So, I think when you look at that, you have to see this is their plan already. They've been doing this for a while. So listen to what Kaz Daughtry is telling you here. But just take out subway surfing content for me, please.
Thank you, everyone, for being here. The issue of subway surfing poses a serious threat to our youth. The solution requires several different approaches, and we have developed a 4-pronged method that aims effectively to eliminate the danger from our community. First and foremost, rescuing these children before they are hurt requires a team effort, and the use of drone technology has made this task a lot more easier. As you can see here from the videos that are playing behind me, drones provide the necessary aerial overwatch, allowing our officers to quickly locate and save these children before they get themselves injured. This year, drones have been deployed over 909 times for transit operations. Your officers have successfully saved the lives of 114 subway surfers. However, that's just one part of the solution. Many of these children are influenced by social media. The subway surfing videos that are posted on social media attract an audience unlike anything many of us experienced growing up. While we utilize drone technology to address problems, social media has also played a continuing role in this effort. We are actively collaborating with various social media platforms to leverage the algorithms and artificial intelligence to identify and remove these accounts that promote subway surfing content. By doing this, we aim to eliminate any opportunity for likes, comments, phrase associated with this dangerous act. Education is the key. We are making strides by partnering with teachers and educators who serve as vital mentors. We need to encourage a discussion in the classrooms about the realities of subway surfing, highlighting that such behavior can lead to permanent disfigurement or, in certain cases, death. It is not glamorous, it is tragic. By fostering this dialogue, we hope to prevent these actions before they even occur. Finally, we cannot address this issue without the involvement of parents. Parents know their children's best, and after every subway surfing incident, we share the drone footage with each parent. Open conversations at home are critical. Everything starts within the family. By fostering these discussions, we can work together to tackle this challenge. In conclusion, while this issue may seem complex, our priority remains clear: the safety of our children. The solution is multifaceted, and the NYPD is committed to working hand in hand with the community to put an end to subway surfing. Together, we can protect and save the lives of all of our children. I just want to go over some quick numbers real quick. Total surfing operations that we have deployed the drone with is 153 times. The total lives saved are 114 times. What you're seeing in this video behind me here that's playing, the drone captured 70 incidents from January 1st to now of subway surfing incidents. They had labeled these as apprehensions. We're labeling them as live saved. And when the parents come into the commands and into the transit district, and when they watch their child, their loved ones on top of this train, the attention doesn't focus on the NYPD anymore. It focuses on the kids because they cannot believe what they are watching in the transit district when they're seeing their child surfing on top of these train stations. And like the mayor said before, the youngest surfer that we have saved is 9 years old. The average is 14 to 15 years of age.
What do you got, Eric?
Well, there's Tom Donland. He looks very useful. So, of course, Kaz Daughtry appears to be some type of salesman when it comes to drones. All we hear about, and every opportunity to eject drones, that opportunity is not missed by Kaz Daughtry, right? Obviously, it's propelled, and this is under the thumb of Eric Adams. Again, is subway surfing important? Is it something that needs to be addressed? Absolutely. But getting to this idea that we're going to shut down social media accounts that are associated with subway surfing, I think that's gone a little too far. I think we actually need to address it on hand. We're not going to go out and do full-out investigations to find the subway surfer, but if we could catch someone in real time and save their lives, absolutely. Is it a nice gesture to talk to the family? Sure. That goes by anything. Anytime that we encounter a juvenile that's under arrest, we should be communicating with those parents. But this idea that we're going to shut down social media accounts, the only social media accounts that should be shut down is John Shell and Kaz Daughtry for the amount of unprofessionalism that they've been on social media. This is absolutely ridiculous. But even then, you and I have supported First Amendment speech, and even through the attacks we received from the upper echelon of the police department, the unprofessionalism from Kaz Daughtry and John Shell, we both said we support First Amendment speech, and we don't think that they should be shut down in one day. This is absolutely ridiculous. Richie O, thank you so much. Coffee and donuts to the podcast. We appreciate it, brother. 1999 super sticker. Thank you so much for being a friend and listen to the podcast. I think this idea of shutting down the social media accounts is absurd. That's their plan to stop the subway service, because what they're trying to say is for clout. But I think it's ridiculous, because if they're going to do that, that's successful. What other social media accounts could they shut down? Could they shut down the social media accounts to John and Eric from New York Files Retired Unfiltered podcast because we did something that was dangerous in their point of view? Maybe that's what's next. Sounds like a test to me.
Yeah, so again, John Shell with the American flag, the bald eagle, talking about freedom of speech. Subway surfing content is freedom of speech, because once you start to block speech, you're going to block videos that happen on subways. That's when the word subway comes in, right? Oh, well, potentially it could be a subway surfing content video. So he says it right here. We are actively collaborating with social media platforms to leverage the algorithms. What are you going to do? They're going to hone in on keywords. What do we see often? Videos coming from trains, right? To identify and remove these accounts that promote subway surfing content. I don't think they will end at just accounts that promote subway surfing content. I think they'll go after accounts like they've done with us. We're the example. Obviously, John Shell has taken our example on social media. Kaz Daughtry has taken our example, and they've came out, right? They've done exactly what we put the blueprint out for, right? Exactly. If you look at my social media account, you look at my mainstream media interviews, the way I would go on, the way I would promote them afterwards, they're doing the exact same thing. They're following the blueprint that I set out, right? When you start to go in on the pushing back and advocating against far left elected officials, where'd they get that from? I've been doing that for over 3 years, right? So when you look at the blueprint, they talk about free speech, but they do everything that's so far against attacks on free speech. They don't believe in free speech. John Shell's not willing to have an engaging conversation. He's not going to engage on social media. I won't be shocked if I'm blocked by the end of the day by John Shell. So Kaz Daughtry here, he says it. He says, we are actively collaborating to leverage the algorithms and the artificial intelligence to identify and remove these accounts that promote it. But what does he do? If you see in the background, he has a video playing that's promoting subway surfing content, right? He has a video of kids subway surfing. What does he do immediately after this press conference? He takes that video and he puts it on his social media and tells everyone just how dangerous it is. Did he not just do what he's saying that people shouldn't do? Did he not just promote the same subway surfing content? So they don't even know what they're talking about. Like, they can't even stick to the script of what they're telling anyone else to do. He's telling people that when you post stuff on social media related to subway surfing content, that it should be removed and it should be taken down. And yet he posted that video. And I'm not going to post that video, because if I post it, I'm telling you right now, the video that the NYPD created using taxpayer funds, the video that Kaz Daughtry shared, the video that John Shell just shared, I'm going to get taken down, not them. So I don't know what they're talking about when they're talking about free speech. They're not talking about free speech. They're talking about controlling the narrative here, because this is just a plan in place, in my opinion, to control the narrative and also to justify a outdated program where they've spent millions of taxpayer dollars. And I guarantee when you look at it, there is going to be a scandal that breaks out with these drone contracts.
That's exactly what I was actually referring to, right? We're talking about the narrative. They want to control the narrative. They want to fight your perception. They want to change your truth. And that's what this whole campaign has been for the NYPD upper management under the behest of Eric Adams. It's been to change your mindset. It's been to gaslight you. This is more gaslighting. And again, I think that this is a test, a segue into what other free speech that they can suppress. It's kind of ironic, right? Because we have these wacko leftists from the New York City Council that are trying to shut down the speech of Kaz Daughtry and John Shell for their unprofessionalism. And you and I, we actually were in opposition to that. We've actually defended them, even though they've been completely unprofessional, because we believe in the First Amendment. We believe in the right of expression. I actually believe that people have the right to actually say what they want. We have comments here. We have people trolling us, and John and I do not block them. We believe you're allowed to your free speech. We have tough skin. You can say what you want. But again, I believe that their intentions is absolutely a test to see what's next. And that's what it would come down to. It would come down to keywords. Could they, if they could shut down subway surfer videos on social media, could they shut down podcasts that actually critique the upper echelon of the police department? Could they? They sure could. Could they shut down anyone that talks about vaccine or mandates from the police department? Could they shut down anyone that talks about anything in the police department? Could they potentially shut down things that the union says? So the union, even though they're in bed with the enemy, they should be aware of that also, because the union uses social media accounts. Could the union also be suppressed also, besides packing the courtroom? Anyway, thanks to Arbed $4.99. More coffee and donuts for the podcast. Good morning. I do believe that today is a very special celebratory day of reprieve. Isn't the Juju crew out of debtor's chat prison today? Absolutely. Arbed, thank you so much, brother. I think Juju is headed for 233 Broadway or maybe 500 Pearl Street. Eric, $1.99, cup of coffee here. You guys are great. Love to hear the podcast. You guys are great. Also, friends and listeners podcast. John and I were talking about it yesterday. Like, there's a lot of stuff that our friends and listeners bring that really helps network this podcast and get the message out there. And sometimes you bring stuff up that we may have overlooked, and we appreciate the input. So keep doing it. Let's keep building together. Right now, the algorithm's down. We've really been suppressed on this podcast when it comes to X right now, falsely reported for frivolous copyrights, but that's all right. As John said, we're going to keep trucking. Our social media accounts are constantly suppressed, constantly shadow banned, constantly ghost banned, but we're not going to stop. So we're just going to continue. We just work through the hard times. We hit a plateau right now, and we will surpass that. So, John, what do you got here?
Richard Kentaft. What legal rights do they have to shut down any social media account? Show me that. They don't. Violates First Amendment. It violates free speech. And we're going to sit here and pretend, we all have short memories. We're going to sit here and pretend like this is a new phenomena. We're going to sit here and pretend like this didn't happen. What about the 70s, the 80s, the 90s in New York City when kids subway surfed? How did we deal with it? Why did it go away? Oh, I know. It's called enforcement and prosecution. It's not called videotaping and showing parents. So this video comes in by way of Marlon Bethel. I'm not going to play the sound on it, but here, this looks like oh, there it goes. I knew it was going to be loud. So, but look, here we go. Trains, right? You remember this time, kid riding in a train car, spray painting. Here we go. Here's a video hanging around the side of the train, playing on the train tracks. Right? What are they doing? Riding on the subway cars. There's Luke Curtis, right? Subway surfing has always been around. It's always been a problem. These people are talking about it. Kids have always played on the subway. But in the past, there were prosecution. So this is not a new phenomena. And what we're seeing is, and I'm going to send you I want to show you guys the demonstration also of and this guy's just talking about it. I'm not going to put it on because the music's really annoying. So, but what you see is how they plan to stop this, and it's failed. We're spending millions of dollars. We have hundreds of officers off the streets to partake in this, and it's completely ineffective. And all we're doing is videotaping kids who are subway surfing. That's all we're technically doing, and they're calling it saved lives. They're stopping them. You didn't save anybody's life. You could be videoing the kid with the drone. He looks up and falls. That's saving the kid's life by videotaping him. So it's really a false narrative that they're pushing. It's perception management at its finest, and it's terrible. It's absolutely terrible. Eric, it's flying a drone over a kid while he's subway surfing and then taking him to his parents and showing the parent the video. Is that saving a life? It's videoing that kid saving a life.
When I saw this, I said we should actually change the name, not from saving lives to recording deaths. That's all the drone is going to do. It's actually record someone's injury or record their death. This is something that's been going on forever. You're absolutely right. 60s, 70s, 80s, people have always been subway surfing. How do you stop it? By actually the police department, by making arrests. Yes, is there a dichotomy right now between the police department and the DA's office when it comes to actually making arrests and prosecution? Sure. Are we concerned with prosecution? No, because that's not the end goal. The end goal is not to put these kids in jail, but the end goal is to stop it. How do we stop it? By actually making arrests and having these kids sit a night in jail and actually having them to notify their parents. That is part of the process. Yes, you make the arrest so that you have to notify the parents. So now the parents will embarrass the kids and the parents will feel that sense of community to stop that. But again, are we surprised that this administration is taking action that is unconstitutional? Are we surprised? We have a sanctuary city that's unconstitutional. We have a city right now that is conducting Operation Padlock. That's unconstitutional. Suppressing First Amendment speech, what has been done by this upper management, the police department, towards this podcast, towards journalists, that's unconstitutional. And this here, to change the algorithm to stop social media accounts, that's unconstitutional. But again, are we surprised by this administration? This is their mission. Change your perception and fight the truth. John Shell said it yesterday. Anyone that was active and live on this podcast, yes, our friends and listeners, you heard John Shell say that that's how they stop crime in the streets, by going on talk shows, by changing your perception, by fighting your truth. He said it from his own mouth. We should play it again if you have an opportunity, but watch our prior podcast if you missed it, where John Shell says it, and it's continuing right here. Cass Daughtry and John Shell, sure enough, they have self-proclaimed themselves as the Gotham Brothers, and they sure are. They are just putting the message out in Gotham City, and the message is, we will violate your Constitution anytime that we see. This administration is capable of anything. They don't believe in the law. It's funny how Eric Adams said they should follow the law. If anything, this is the administration that breaks the law.
100%. This is the law is a mere suggestion for them. The law is a mere suggestion. They could care less about it. So, all right, let's play this video. This is a demonstration of how they're saving lives. Let's hear it. Let's see why New York City taxpayers are spending millions of dollars to utilize equipment that's very cheap and really not effective.
Ready? Yep. All right, so we're going to demonstrate. Our Tyro detectives are going to demonstrate what they do every single day, Monday through Friday, along Roosevelt Avenue. There's strategic locations that we actually pick on the roofs of Roosevelt Avenue, and the Skydio X10 drone is going to perform a subway surfing directed patrols, we call it.
Is this part of the operation for Roosevelt as well, as a part of our surveillance? And we're doing on Queens Boulevard as well?
Sorry. Okay, so as you can see, the pilot is watching the trains as they come in. Like the mayor said before, the number 7 line is probably one of our most prolific subway lines for subway surfing in the city. Reason being is there's a particular area or between Junction Boulevard and 103rd Street where you can get the most iconic view of the skyline. If you look at those pictures there, that was taken from our drone from subway surfing, and those are the photos, those are the videos that our young adults, our youngsters like, because they're just iconic photos and they get the most likes and shares on it. I think I've seen one subway post where subway surfer post where it was viewed over 45 million times because they like the backdrop. And I read some of the comments where folks were commenting on the backdrop of the actual the post. But if you can see, the drones can fly up from here all the way down to 74th Street. They can come all the way back down to 111th Street, and we have officers in plain clothes, some in uniform. When the train's pulling into the station, when they identify a subway surfer, they will pull into the station. We already have that description and what type of individual we're looking for. Some of the kids get a little crafty where when they're coming down off of the train, they'll take off their jacket, they'll take off their shirt and put another shirt on because they know sometimes that the drones are watching them. But we already have them identified before they even do that. So that has happened several times. But that's just a quick demonstration. If you could look at the skyline in the back. You know, when the train is pulling into the next station, you can see that's the sky. That's the picture that they want. They want that skyline. They want that view, and that's what's going to give them a lot of likes and shares. This is a live feed as you're seeing. And not only are the officers watching, looking at their handheld devices, but this stream is also being streamed into our Joint Operations Center. And any one of the executives that wants to watch a real life subway surfing directed patrols with our drones. That's just a quick overview. We're not gonna. Thank you. You can come back. Yeah.
I thought that was hilarious. He was like, "Oh, you see that spot right there? That's the picture that they want." I mean, like, that's what this comes down to. I mean, you don't think that maybe there's subway surfing also just because of the thrill of it, and it's just for social media to get clout? I'm sure there is an angle to put on social media, but it's also the thrill of it. Yeah, we do need to put a stop to it, but we're the police department. That's why we still have handcuffs. I don't care how much we evolve. We have phones. We have tasers. We have all the stuff since 1901 until now. We still have silver handcuffs, and that's what we do. We make arrest and have that arrest turned over to the district attorney's office and let them decide what we're going to do with it. But let the kids sit at night in jail. Let them face their parents. Let the process play out to actually stop it. And if the DA's office doesn't hold their part, then you know what? At the press conference, instead of talking about drones, talk about how the DA's office is not holding their they're part of the bargain, and that's why you can't stop the subway surfers, rather than trying to suppress First Amendment speech and going out in this attack on social media. This is an abomination, and this is this administration. Again, it looks like this is a press conference to sell drones. Other than that, I don't see it as a press conference to actually stop, to save lives. All they're doing is recording deaths.
No, yeah, this is let's push back at what the Finest Unfiltered was talking about 2 days ago. Let's have a press conference and say why we're going to up this pilot program to now we're going to bring into the mainstream and spend way more money on these contracts and on these drones and on this failed technology. Now, people are reaching out to me left and right. Oh, the drones are good. We're not saying they're not. We're just saying how they're being utilized makes absolutely no sense. This program makes absolutely no sense to utilize drones for subway surfing. Matt O'Brien says it here, Monday through Friday. Why do we have detectives flying drones? Could anybody answer that question to me? Why do we have police officers flying drones? Why do we not have a civilian title of drone operator? Why are we spending all this money? Monday through Friday. Yeah. What about Saturday and Sunday when kids are out and they're not in school? What about them? Kids aren't subway surfing Saturday and Sunday? I find that very hard to believe. If they're doing it during the week, they're damn sure doing it on the weekend. But when you look at what he demonstrated that, we go based around the calls of where we're getting them. So it's not even like a true science. It's not even, it's like the flu shot. Like, we're kind of looking at it. We kind of think it's going to be over here, people. So we set up the cops here, and then we just follow the train with the drones. We just go up. We do directed patrols on top of the drones. Huge waste of resources. Huge waste of taxpayer money. Huge. And I'm going to tell you why. These drones are about $30K each. Like we said, they have the waiver to fly out of sight. He actually says they have a waiver to fly the drones autonomously, which means that they are little or no human control, which we don't have any of those drones in New York City where they're autonomous. These are actually, there's nothing autonomous about these drones. So they don't have that waiver. But it's been reported that there's been over 60 crashes of drones and that the FAA is thinking about rescinding that waiver that these officers could even fly these drones out of the line of sight. So what they're doing is they're only following the train for one train station. How much cheaper would it be? How much cheaper would it be to mount every single New York City train, every single one, with select cameras on certain areas on the roofs of the train that have AI attached to it, that anytime a person enters the roof, there's an automatic notification made to law enforcement, to the MTA to review, and then they send it out to law enforcement to respond to stop this. How much? And then we have something, you know what they're called? The transit police. And they could go and respond to the subway surfing that's occurring. How much cheaper would it be? It would be much cheaper than this program is. It would be much more effective than this program is. But obviously, that's not the goal because they don't know any camera guys. They don't want to have that contract. Maybe they will after they do this, after they spend the hundreds of millions here and they all invest in cheap penny stocks for these drone companies and then get themselves rich off of this graft that we're all witnessing in front of our eyes. Because, yeah, I agree with you 100%, Eric. All I see here is a sales pitch for drones. Everyone's going nuts about this guy, Jesse Hamilton, who took to his own private YouTube, went and did a video with Cushman and Wakefield to promote their building that he wanted New York City to buy when he works for New York City, thereby making the value of the building go up. While he's standing there with a woman he goes on vacation with and has the potential of making $13 million if the sale goes through, or probably more because he's helping to put up the cost. Why New York City we're doing this, but everybody was outraged by that. Why are you not equally outraged by this? Because it's not on their personal YouTube, because they're showing it you right in their face. What they're doing is they're selling a failed product, a failed system at stopping subway surfing. This is doing zero to save lives. It's doing zero to deter subway surfing. You know what? I'll take it back. It's not doing zero, but it's doing little. It's doing little.
Deuces 300 says, this guy Cass seems to be promoting the subway surfing. Absolutely. John had inferred it before. We're speaking about it it's a sales pitch. They see to promoting the actual subway surfing to actually make the correlation with drones, to actually make the correlations to shut down social media platforms. Ultimately, I think the goal of this is private contracts, which I'm sure at some point we'll find out about that. And I also think that the ultimate goal is to make the test. If they could actually shut down social media platforms when it comes to subway surface and safety, then they could push the envelope even further and shut down First Amendment speech, that anyone who is in opposition of the police department under the behest of Eric Adams, anyone that actually has critique or an opinion that is in opposition to this administration will be dealt with, and their social media accounts will be hacked. There's no doubt about it. What's interesting about this, it kind of reminds me, it's on par with the gun detection scanners, right? They put the gun detection scanners in one subway location at one platform. It was a complete epic fail, along with the robots, and this is just another case. It's going to be an epic fail. They're not able to monitor every train in New York City that's on an elevated platform, that's on an L, as we know it. It's just it's not possible. What it really could take is just old-fashioned good police work. I mean, you could easily just have two cops on a rooftop watching the trains come by one day, maybe twice a month, do an operation, watch people on the train subway surfing, and you could have cops about a mile ahead at the subway station and say, listen, here's the description. Two kids are on the subway. Here's what they're wearing. Radio it in. And when they come down, the police officer at that platform will make the arrest. Just good old-fashioned police work. Now, again, I know we're getting a lot of opposition. Some people think it's polarizing, the stuff that we're saying about drones. We are not, by any stretch of the means. John and I are not saying that drones are an ineffective tool or an ineffective resource. I think that the more tools that are supplemental to you doing police work are fantastic, right? We need tools. We need resources to be an effective police department, to be an effective law enforcement agency, to be effective with your boots on the ground. But we have to use these tools properly. And these tools and these resources are perpetuated for the appearance of impropriety. We believe there's private contracts behind this because the mannerisms that these drones are being utilized does not appear to be effective. It appears to be completely misused. Now, if it's going to be used supplemental for a police officer to carry out their job and to perform better and to actually save lives and to make arrests, sure. But I don't see it here. I don't see it when it comes to subway surfing. They're not saving lives. They're reporting deaths.
Yeah, it's 100%. You're 100. I'm gonna actually use that too. That's exactly what they're doing. No, you know what? I'm gonna actually change it on you. They're promoting subway surfing content. That's what they're doing. They're not saving lives. They're promoting subway safety content. That's what they're doing. It's a promotion of subway safety content. It's and 100%. I'm all for the drone use. I'm all for it. I just think what we're seeing here is not that. It's just not. We're not seeing anything that's steeped in that's well thought out. That's steeped in public safety. This is a clear promotion. Here's I think here's the last video on this that I just want to highlight when he talks about the drones. Talks about how many they have. This is how large this fleet is. It's about to get a lot larger. And let's listen to what the illustrious Kaz Daughtry has to say about it.
This is something we're going to expand. We're going to move the pilot to expand even more because it's doing the job that we expect it.
How many drones are in use now that it's no longer in the pilot phase? Do you have those numbers available?
Do you have the number of drones on?
The department has approximately 109 drones in its fleet, and we're looking to purchase some more drones. We're still working to decide what company we're going to go to. There's two companies that we are looking at that we're piloting now, Skydio drones, X10, Nightingale, and I think Brinks is another one. But we're looking to phase out our DJI drones because those are not American-made drones. Those are drones that were made in China, and we're looking to slowly phase them out of our fleet.
Why does it matter where they're made? Okay, he said.
So when you say you've saved 100 lives, I'm curious to know how enforcement meshes with the drone photos. So do you...
We have officers on the trains that active.
All right, we don't need to listen to the rest of that garbage, but you get it. 109 drones being reported at about $30K each with a subway service contract. about $30,000 each. So, I mean, right then and there, just you do the math. We just told you there was about over 60 crashes. And he tells you there that they have the autonomous waiver to fly these drones, and they absolutely do not have a waiver for autonomous drones. They have a waiver for out of line of sight, which is drones that are controlled by humans. So he's not even really too well versed in what he's actually doing.
I'm sorry, I can't help it. I was laughing at the lone silencer comment. Hey, this is great. Damn, check out that 40-yard dash speed by Kaz to get to a microphone in front of a camera. Could win a gold medal with that speed in track and field. LOL. Yeah, there's definitely something wrong when he's in the background. He never stands there with discipline and stays calm. Like you see him, like he's almost like he can't wait to get to that microphone. He's he's itching up his body. It's like trying to get around the mayor. It's like he doesn't have any stoicism. Like, he doesn't have that sense of presence, that sense. I mean, when you think of past commissioners, whether you like them or not, he doesn't have, whether you like Kerrick or you like Kelly or not, they were both stoic and they had that sense of presence. Like, man, you knew that guy's the boss, and they had a lot more poise. This is insane. But yeah, back to the subways, back to more violence, no drones. Let's go.
All right, so this video comes in by just way of Jason Curtis Anderson Lee, former New York Post reporter. He now sits on the board of One City Rising in New York, a bipartisan organization that seeks to promote common sense legislation and common sense politicians. They have moved what appears to be a little left in my book, but they still push a very common sense narrative. But check that organization out, One City Rising. Check out Jason Curtis and Anderson Lee. So this video comes in New York City subway. So let's talk about subway safety, because obviously the drones aren't stopping there. And we are going to witness another highlight in a failure in public safety where you're traveling down a dark tunnel. You're trapped inside of a train car with a crazed man. There are no members of the NYPD in sight. You see a crazed man yelling at an elderly woman. I'm going to play it from here.
Dickhead, fuck out of here, bitch.
So about an 80-year-old woman, real tough guy, smacks her and then rushes up to her and starts screaming in her face, "Try me," to an 80-year-old elderly woman. Eric, what do you think?
I think, thank God, Daniel Penny wasn't there, because this poor savage cretin would not be alive today. This is unfortunate. No longer will we have any good, I'm making a joke out of it, obviously, but no longer will we have any good Samaritans, any men to step in to help an elderly woman. I don't know how you stand there. I don't know how strap hangers are just sitting there and just watching this. And you know how? Because they're thinking Daniel Penny. No one wants to be the next Daniel Penny. So some 80-year-old woman was slapped in the face because no one wants to step up to stop that threat. Again, it's amazing how things happen in life. This is unfortunate. This 80-year-old woman was slapped. It's terrible. And it's unfortunate that we have, someone in a mental crisis, some maniac that's acting like this on the train. But at the same token, there's a lot of good that comes out of bad. Thank God this happened now, because hopefully the defense attorneys that are defending Daniel Penny could use a video like this to show how dangerous it could be on a platform. And Jordan Neely, it's unfortunate he met his demise. It's tragic. But Jordan Neely had a history of attacking elderly citizens of New York also. Our elderly are gems. They're so vulnerable right now in New York City. I constantly, every day, I look at the crime information in the New York Post, and every day we see someone elderly being attacked. And I always ask that question: is the NYPD appropriately charging the felony charges because of the age disparity? And is the DA's offices actually prosecuting these cases? But again, Daniel Penny will be no longer. You will no longer see Daniel Pennies because of this justice system. This is horrendous. And Jordan Neely obviously was capable of doing the same thing. And Daniel Penny acted as he should. And now we have no one to step in and help this elderly woman. It's disgusting and to watch this. I couldn't just sit by and sit idle. Absolutely not.
Yeah, so I mean, and that's the thing, right? Like this is and it comes right in time for the Penny trial. This is exactly what Daniel Penny sought to stop. It's exactly what happened where Jordan Neely screamed in an elderly woman's face, "I'm gonna effing kill you." So when he did that, that's when Daniel Penny intervened. If someone would have intervened as he was rushing up on an 80-year-old woman and they started fighting, could you really fault them? But there are, you would look at this in the past and say, where are the men? Where are they? They're sitting in jail. They're waiting to get put in jail like Daniel Penny is waiting to get prosecuted, because that's not what New York City wants. New York City wants you to be a victim, obviously. But don't worry. There are drones flying somewhere, and there are hundreds of cops working to make sure those drones are up in the air, to make sure kids aren't subway surfing, when we could just, and even someone said you could just have sensors on the exits that alert law enforcement, but we can't even do that. So we're wasting millions of dollars to not provide public safety. So here's another failure in public safety. Thankfully, this woman wasn't harmed any further. I mean, this is obviously a very traumatic experience for her. She's 80 years old. She has a grown, healthy male physically threatening her. The other males on the car seem scared, and they look like they're physically capable of defending themselves. And this woman clearly is not. So shout out to Eric Adams for being a complete, utter failure and bringing the subways back to 1970s and the 80s. The transit cop has brought back transit crime. Shout out to you.
Well, some people might say this is unfair, but I don't think it is. Chief Galata, everyone has been, supporting. Not everyone, but a lot of support for Chief Galata. Oh, he's going to be great in transit. What is his plan? I haven't seen any change. I haven't seen anything deviate from the plan that we had in place before under former Chief Michael Kemper. Nothing has changed. The only difference is former transit chief Michael Kemper advised strap hangers not to look people in the eye. So maybe she looked somebody in the eye. Maybe it's her fault. Maybe we should blame this 80-year-old woman. Maybe she looked him in the eye. Again, there's no plan right now. Chief Galata obviously has not been there a long period of time, but it doesn't matter. He took over. We need immediate action. There's absolutely no plan in transit. Our elderly are still completely vulnerable on these subway systems. We don't see any change at all. It still looks the same as it did a year ago. I don't see absolutely any change other than omnipresence. And all we hear is talk about drones. We need intrusive police work. We need a masculine police department, and we need effective leadership. That's what we need. We need now to support the elderly, and we need the police department to say we stand behind Daniel Penny. And at no point have we seen that either, because they're backing the Dems. They're supporting them with union dues money, and there's no support at all. All they do is pack courtrooms.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, that's exactly what's going on. And then, that's it. You're basically on your own. You're trapped in there with psychos. Don't defend yourself. Don't defend others. There's no cops there to help you, but there's drones flying overhead, just at certain subway stations, wherever they wherever they feel like playing, but only Monday through Friday. So, and only certain hours, right? So it's a complete, utter failure. What a waste and a joke. And
I'll tell you what, the drones got better RDOs than most cops do.
Yeah. And then so we had a mass shooting at a Halloween parade in Orlando last night. Unfortunately, people lost their lives. I'm not going to play the videos. The videos are absolutely horrific. You can go to Raw's news alerts. It's actually all over social media now. There's horrible, horrible videos of, the deaths that occurred. I believe as of right now, they're reporting 2 deaths and over 8 shot. And it's just horrible on the scene. But, the first thing that came to my mind when I saw that is same thing happened in Labor Day in New York City. There was a mass shooting on a parade route. People lost their lives. People were injured. People were maimed. And that parade was actually during the day that it happened in Brooklyn. And New York City Mayor Eric Adams said everything went according to plan. and hats off to the team. And I'm just sitting there and I'm thinking, I'm looking at what's going on in Orlando, and I'm saying, could you imagine if the mayor of Orlando comes out right now and says, everything went according to plan, hats off to the team? How horrible. Like, does anyone hold Eric Adams accountable for anything he says?
Well, there's only one nut.
Yeah.
There's only one nut. Again, John, that's the whole point. You're right. Only Eric Adams gets away with a narrative. Only Eric Adams can say the things that he says. When he's the narrator of racism, it's okay. He's the narrator talking about it's okay that 5 people were shot. That's okay. If it's said anywhere else where it comes to common sense, it's a problem. But for some reason, Eric Adams has gotten away with anything. Eric Adams can do what he wants. Eric Adams could be under a corruption probe. Eric Adams could be indicted and still be the mayor of New York City. Eric Adams can walk on water. So you know what? When Eric Adams says he's the king and he's the pope, maybe he's right. Maybe he is.
Yeah. Just back on Galata real quick. Crazy 10-7 says Galata's plan is to survive until the next administration, like all these cucks. Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, yeah, that's what we see. That's exactly what we see. Rich Kentaff says, please explain to me what NYPD transit cops actually do. Are they making railroad trespassing arrests? Are they riding the trains? What are they actually doing? It seems to be a loss. I'll tell you what they're doing. They're diminished. They are riding the trains. They are out there enforcing the law, but they're diminished. They're mostly standing on foot posts in areas with high traffic for presence. So Eric Adams could say, look, there's cops there and there's cops there. Look. So they're being utilized completely improperly. And sometimes they're standing up on foot posts and doing other types of patrols. And sometimes they're up doing a different detail, and they have people down in transit doing a different detail. It's everything that this department does. The logistics of this department have fell apart. They have completely fell apart. You have guys at one police plaza that are in charge of one police plaza security. They know that building. I've never done security for one police plaza, so I don't know the building, right? So it would make sense to you that the guys that are in charge of the security apparatus for one police plaza remain there. But no, what they do is they fly out the guys that are in charge of headquarters security for one police plaza, and then they fly in people to do security for headquarters security, and then they wonder why there's so many security breaches. It's like, you're sending someone who has no idea how you operate and flying out someone who does. So obviously there's going to be mishaps. So, and it's the same goes true for transit guys, and it's the same goes true for precinct guys. You want people with intricate knowledge of those precincts. You want people that understand how the subway system works. You want people to understand the arrest process and summons process and court process. And you want people that are going to stay in borough, so that when they do go to court, you're not down all these cops all the time and cops flying everywhere. But under the Eric Adams administration, we've lost total control because the department is so diminished. Yet we're focused on purchasing drones and taking even more cops to have them fly these drones. And somebody said it on here. We can't mention his name for one more day. So we'll mention his name again on Monday. But he said it on here. He said flying a drone requires technical expertise. Yes, I know. You have to learn how to do it. You have to do it. I understand that. So what qualifies any cop to do that? I could go do that. So could a regular civilian. Why are we paying them so much money? Why are we giving away detective shields? Eric Adams said he was not going to have people in administrative roles. He was going to have them out there on the streets and on the trains, arresting people, writing summonses, and providing public safety. And yet, since his inception, he's done everything but that.
Unfortunately, it's been the history of the police department. This management, this administration takes it even further. The history of the police department has been robbed from Peter to pay Paul, right? We don't necessarily always curb crime, but we displace it. And we see it even further with this administration. That's why I said on Roosevelt Avenue, their operation is going to displace crime. It's actually, I believe it's going to make it worse, right? They'll have this 90-day operation, which now Castorgi says 60 days. at Roosevelt Avenue to shut down prostitution, to shut down the quality of life conditions on Roosevelt Avenue, but they're not actually getting to the root cause of it. So this is going to push to other locations and not just be one strip. This will be different pockets. And the same thing goes right now when it comes to omnipresence with transit. We're taking guys in different locations. We're taking guys to monitor drones. We're taking guys to man subways. We're taking guys to monitor different locations, and they were losing, because of a diminished police department, their presence in the subway. So again, there's absolutely no actual plan. Galata doesn't have a plan right now as the new chief of transit. And again, I think it's kind of funny when someone said he's just trying to survive this administration. It's absolutely correct. It's funny because it's true. With truth, there is humor, and with humor, there is truth. And that's what's going on with this administration. It's a complete joke. Again, it's all about private contracts. It's robots. It's gun detection scanners. It's phones. It's one thing or another. I mean, even back in the day, think about it. I think it was about 2 years ago, right? Maybe a year and a half ago, John, where Eric Adams wanted a sticker on the back of cops' not their personal phone, their business phone, so they could identify which one was the business phone and which one was the personal phone. So I'm sure there was some private contract behind those stickers also. Every appearance of impropriety when it comes to its administration is there, and it's right in your face.
Yeah, absolutely. There was a young man struck, 8-year-old boy riding his dirt bike yesterday, Sarasota, Florida. Let me bring that video up. So cops driving down the road. Kid comes across the road on his little dirt bike at 8 years old. Why we're giving our kids these dirt bikes and these electric vehicles, I have no idea. You're essentially giving your kid a motorcycle at a very young age when they're too young to understand. And he darted out in front of a police cruiser, and the police cruiser hit him. I'm going to say right now, whenever I patrolled very slowly. I drove at a very slow rate. I don't know if this officer was driving fast. I don't know if they were tailing someone. I don't know if they were responding to a job. But I will say, when you're cruising, cruise. You should be able to, everybody should know you're on the block that day. You should be driving slow. This is a highlight on why jaywalking shouldn't be allowed. Because when we've just seen that New York City decriminalized jaywalking, which we talked about that yesterday, and how dangerous it is. And this is one of the dangers of it. You're going to see more pedestrians struck by vehicles. You're going to see pedestrians take over the roadway because they could just walk out whenever they like. And the police have basically been emasculated on how to enforce that. So this comes out from the Sarasota Police Department. I'll just play a short clip of it. But horrible situation. And this is another example of why you need to know where you are at all times, because something like this could happen also. So here we go.
Oh, fuck! Fuck! 2.36 dispatch! 2.36! Start me EMS! 2.36! It's okay. It's okay. We got EMS coming. Sir, we got EMS coming. 2.36! Start me rescue! Hey, baby, I got you. You just said fucking 36! I need EMS! We got EMS coming!
So, young man went to surgery. He is in critical condition. He's alive. It does, now reviewing the video, it does look like he was en route to a job. Obviously, there were cops tailing behind him. Eric, what are your thoughts around this?
I have put out a post about this yesterday. First of all, it's so hard to watch this video, and I watched it several times. I can feel the chills in my arms watching this, man. We all love kids. But this is every cop's worst nightmare. This is every cop's worst nightmare. I mean, you could do everything 100% right, and something like this could still happen. So there is also the burden on the parents. The parents also have to be responsible for these kids. I mean, I have kids. John, you have kids. We do everything we can to make sure they have helmets. We make sure that they're on where they are at all times, where they're going. He shouldn't be on this type of motorized motorized bike. Absolutely not. But again, this is every cop's nightmare. So I don't think we could really blame the cops or blame the kid. There is some blame on the parents. Absolutely. I definitely think there's some blame on the parents that the kid is out there like this. Again, I just say this is every cop's nightmare. I mean, I don't know how fast he was going. We can't tell. But if this is a community, I would assume, he's a Sarasota cop working in Sarasota. If this is a community and he knows the community, that's why it's important, where you work. If this is a community where there's normally a lot of kids around and people are outside, then I would say there's definitely some blame on the cop because you have to be careful. I say, no, I know that normally there's a lot of people out here. I have to be careful when I go down the street, even if you go into a job that's of importance. So again, every cop's nightmare. This is everyone's nightmare. And I've been saying it constantly. What have I been saying? These vehicle pursuits is not a good tactic in New York City. We could show the correlation because, God forbid, you're in New York City, you get involved in one of these chases or you're pursuing a car, whatever the case is. God forbid you hit a 5-year-old kid or an 8-year-old kid, just as we see here. It's tragic, and that's going to be far worse than anyone you would chase and anything that was going on. Absolutely. So please be careful out there. That's been the message from this podcast.
Yeah, 100%. That's why they always put the message out there, arrive alive, try to just let you know what's going on. I'm not saying it was the officer's fault or it wasn't. The kid could have just darted out as the cop's driving, but you really got to be aware. You got to be aware of your surroundings at all times. Things aren't getting easier. And I'll tell you, these electric bikes are scary. They're really scary. My friend's mother-in-law, pouring raining out. She's elderly woman. She's driving. She's cognitively fine. She's able to drive. Pouring rain, and these kids are driving these dirt bikes. Some of them go 65 miles an hour, these electric bikes. They literally, as she's at a stop sign, stopped, about to go out on the road, a kid just dings into her in the pouring rain on the bike, slides onto her car. She's traumatized now. She can't even drive. And the cops came to the scene. They investigated it. The kid, thankfully, he was injured. He was seriously injured, but he was alive and he's fine. But she's completely traumatized, and everyone's blaming her. I'm like, she's stopped at a stop sign, and the kid drove into a car 40 miles an hour and went under her car. I mean, if anyone's at fault, it's the kid. It's not her fault. This is why these things are called an accident. I'm not saying anything should happen to the kid, but we're giving our children these 60-mile-an-hour bikes. I live in a beautiful community here, and all these kids have electric bikes. And I think it's nice that they have toys to go out and explore, but they have to be made aware of what they're doing. I'm in New York. I was in New York City a couple of weeks ago. Everywhere I drove, it's like you need eyes everywhere as you're driving. There's scooters coming up. There's electric bikes everywhere. There are no rules whatsoever. I'm like, I almost took out like 2 or 3 guys on an electric scooter. And I'm like, dude, are you paying attention? Like, I'm going to run you over. Like, what are you doing? Like, do you think I have eyes everywhere? I can't see everything at once. And so like, we need to be cognizant of that as parents. I don't think this kid should have been nowhere near the street to have been able to get hit by the car. Should have been nowhere near the street in that bike should have been on a grassy knoll on somewhere. And, I have no problems with kids or even adults riding bikes on sidewalks. I know they're illegal, but be respectful. If there are people around, operate those at a very low rate of speed. I will tell you, if you're coming near me or by me or me and my family too fast on one of those, I'll kick you right off the bike. I'm not going to risk my life, my children's life for you to get your jollies off driving by me fast. And I've experienced that even before these electric bikes. I used to walk on the boardwalk in Staten Island, and there were grown men screaming, driving, get out of the way. And I'm not having it. You do not have the right of way as a biker. You do not. The pedestrian does.
I hope this doesn't create any chaos in Sarasota or other parts of this country because of this incident. There shouldn't be an attack on the police. This is completely tragic. Again, I said this is a cop's worst nightmare. This is absolutely cop's worst nightmare. I don't think it's the cop's fault. And I don't think it's really anyone's fault. It's just do better as parents to make sure that we're always aware of our kids and give them the right tools. I understand you want to play, But a motorized bike is just way too much for small kids. It's too much for anybody. I bought my wife an e-bike a couple of months ago, and I never use it. You know, I'm into bicycles. I love old racing bikes, but I'm like, you know what? Let me get on this bike just for fun. And I pressed the button, man. The thing took off so fast. I was like, whoa. I even got a little scared myself. Those things move. So for an 8-year-old kid to be on those bikes is absolutely just insane. I mean, it's too much for an adult to handle. So for an 8-year-old kid. But again, I feel sorry for the cop that it's tragic. He had to be involved in that. I'm sure he's hurting. And, you know, unfortunately, there's a lot of people out there that think cops are just evil. That's absolutely not the case. Most cops are just good-hearted people. I'm sure this cop right now is hurting that he was involved in this and that he actually hit the kid. So God bless to the kid. I hope he pulls out of this. I hope he does well. And God bless that cop too also. And I hope this doesn't cause him any mental issues in his life or deteriorate his mental health. And I hope he gets the support from his fellow department.
Yeah, Patrick Donahue wants to know where were the drone operators who could have prevented this accident. Yeah, exactly. That would just about save as many lives as they have on the subways, which is 0. So, all right, last thing, and I think we got to get out of here. We'll go enjoy our Fridays and our weekend ahead. So, NYPD unit headed by the Chinese Communist Party linked commissioner is effectively disbanded. Source. So, what I like to call this is tampering with evidence. This is the only move that Tom Donlin has done other than place, I believe, Chief Tobin into the chief of staff spot and effectively remove her within 24 hours and put Tariq Shepard as the chief of staff. Rumors are flying that Tariq Shepard will be the next police commissioner. Don't know if I believe it. Don't know if I don't. But I know that Jessica Tisch said no, obviously, right? Because here we are. She was supposed to be appointed. She still hasn't been. So here's this man who is linked to the Communist Chinese Party, Lin Goon, assistant director of the NYPD's Police Commissioner Liaison Unit, who has alleged close ties to the government of China. This man came in, I believe, as a community assistant, and within 3 years rose all the way up through the ranks. And now all of a sudden, not only is he gone, they got rid of the entire department. So what happens when you do that? You're getting rid of all the files and all the work and all of the things they've done, right? I like to call that tampering with evidence. Let's get through this article real quick, and then we'll go enjoy our weekends. We'll get Eric's thoughts, get my thoughts, and then we'll get out of here. New York department, headed by an official linked to the Chinese Communist Party, has quietly reorganized, according to insiders, after the Post first reported Assistant Commissioner Lin Goon's ties in September. Members of the Police Commissioner Liaison Unit have all been transferred out of the department, previously located on the 3rd floor of One Police Plaza in Manhattan. The reason for effectively disbanding the team has not been given. But Lin, 49, was a top aide to former Police Commissioner Ed Caban, who resigned from the force a week after federal agents raided his home in September. The NYPD pinned the reshuffle on new commissioner Tom Donlin, even though he's only a caretaker in his role. As is customary with any new administration, changes occur within the police commissioner's office, said the NYPD's Deputy Commissioner of Public Information. Those changes are being made with a great deal of care and consideration. Interim Police Commissioner Tom Donlin is building a strong team to help lead the NYPD in the future and the work that remains ongoing. It's not clear if Lin still has a role at the NYPD. Attempts to reach him by the Post were unsuccessful. Lin also has ties to Winnie Greco, controversial former Adams aide who resigned from City Hall earlier this month and has also had her home raided by the FBI. Lin claims to have arrived in the U.S. from China on a ship carrying illegal immigrants and was forced to pay $40,000 to the Chinese mafia, according to a talk he gave in Westchester that was reported by a local newsletter in February 14. He worked in hospitality between 2004 and 2018 at Fenway Golf Club. He was also the vice chairman of the Funjin Chengal Benevolent Association for 12 years, beginning in 1994. A year after he arrived in the U.S., according to Chinese language media reports. Although the company is a nonprofit and functions are not clear, however, it is entangled with a series of groups collectively known as the United Front, who promoted Chinese Communist Party interests and propaganda overseas. They are overseen by the United Front Department, funded and controlled by Chinese central government. I know a few guys in this photo. Anybody know them? I do. What's up, guys? Hope everyone's doing well. Lin has close ties to the group, having been pictured at one of its meetings in January 2023 wearing a jacket and a police badge. Last week, Eric Adams' campaign amended their filing report that Lin collected $250 contributions from 10 fellow police department employees in June and gave them to the mayor's 2025 re-election campaign, according to a report in Politico. Lin did not donate to the campaign himself, but he acted as a bundler for the donations, according to the report. Lin's association with Greco may also soon come into spotlight. Greco is under the probe of federal authorities looking for private email records of trips she organized to China for Adams when he was the Brooklyn borough president, the Post revealed in June. Insiders told the Post earlier this month Greco's departure became inevitable as the administration braced for her to be indicted by the feds in the Eastern District of New York. The sources said it would be over her dealings with foreign countries while she served in city government on Adams' elections campaign. In September, Adams was hit with a 5-count federal indictment, which alleged, among other charges, a quid pro quo with Turkey. What do you got, Eric?
Hey, what's up, Steven? What's up, brother? Former Sergeant Stephen Lee, the System Unfiltered. Great comment. That Chinese guy is hooked with the people I arrested along with Winnie Greco. No surprise. No surprise. This entire administration is riddled with corruption. Here's someone else promoted by Rocket Fuel. Again, we have to look at everything with this administration. All aspects of it have the appearance of impropriety, more potential corruption probe. Everything in this administration is corrupt. At this point, you can't even look at it and say, hey, is there any corruption going on? It's like, well, is there any integrity going on in this administration? Is there any integrity left? Is there anything that appears wholesome with this administration? Absolutely not. So here we go again. Ties to Winnie Greco. Everyone in this administration has ties. It's some family tree that we have with this administration. All the ties, the nexus that we have, and it all ties back to Eric Adams. Eric Adams is to blame for this entire circle that's going on. This is just riddled and ripped through New York City. Thank you, Eric Adams. We appreciate it. 4 more years, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah, absolutely terrible. Speaking of Eric Adams, he's in court this morning, but a judge denied his team's motion. They put out a motion to have a trial related to that he wasn't going to receive a fair trial because federal authorities leaked to the media his pending indictments and all things surrounding his case. So the judge dismissed that. That came in yesterday. We have that. But he's due back in court today on another motion to dismiss, I believe. So we'll bring anything that comes out of that. But absolutely. It's, Patrick Donahue said that liaison unit was previously disbanded under Police Commissioner Shea. It was then reinstated under the Dream Team, and Tariq Shepard was named the CO of the Police Commissioner liaison unit. Of course he was, wasn't he? That's what we're seeing. New York City is being run as a criminal enterprise. Your tax dollars are going to ineffective, outdated equipment that does absolutely nothing. And then they have these big press conferences to show you exactly why they're spending all of their money while they themselves and their friends are all heavily invested in the products they are pushing in front of you. So that's New York City in a nutshell. I think, it was a long week. It was a busy week. There's definitely going to be more stuff next week. We'll be back at you Monday live, 8:05. Eric, got any closing thoughts before we wrap this up?
Just want to shout out. Listen, November is definitely a month of federal holidays. We got a big month coming up here. You got Election Day, you got Veterans Day, and we got Thanksgiving. So shout out to all the veterans that have served, continue to serve. And if I also feel that law enforcement, you are veterans also. You serve. If you do not serve your country, you still serve. I think that we should start considering our law enforcement officers veterans also for serving their cities, municipalities, whichever form you're serving in law enforcement. So, again, elections coming up within a couple of days. I think that after the election, I think that the podcast will continue to grow. I think we'll be able to get back to a better algorithm and start getting more people involved in these chats. Veterans Day is coming up. On Veterans Day, which is November 11th, we will be down that day. most likely. And Thanksgiving's coming up. So listen, I want to say thank you to everyone for being a friend and listening to this podcast, supporting us. We're getting close to that election. Make sure you get out there and vote, and make that right vote. Make that vote better. So spread the information to people around you. We can't have low information voters. We need people that are properly informed, and the squeaky wheel gets the oil. So no longer can we remain silent. Thank you so much for partaking. It's Friday. Enjoy your weekend. We will be back Monday, of course, 8:05 live. And unless something breaks, something really important, something emergency, we'll be back. Snake Plissken, thank you so much. More coffee and donuts, $4.99 to the podcast. And don't forget, if you have some information or if you have some ideas, please put on a mug what design you think would be best for New York's Finest Return Unfiltered podcast. Something humorous, something cool. We're down for it. We'll put it on the mug. If we like it, we'll send you a free one. You'll give us your information, and we'll sell it on Printify. And you showed support and friendship and for this podcast, and we appreciate it. So let's grow. Let's grow together. Let's build this network. I appreciate all the comments. We've got a lot of engagement on this, even with a smaller group, and that's okay. We're going to continue to grow. So, again, enjoy your weekend, everyone. Shout out. Be safe out there, and vote for Tom Sullivan, true American patriot. Thank you.
Yeah, before we go, shout out Ron Layson. He said, vote early and voted for our friend Tom Sullivan. Get out and vote. Everybody, appreciate all the comments. Appreciate you guys being here. We'll be back at you Monday. New York's Finest Retired and Unfiltered podcast. We'll be back at you. Tom Sullivan is the Republican, Conservative, and Common Sense Party candidate for New York State Assembly District 23. Tom is a financial professional who served simultaneously in the United States Army Reserve for 30 years and has now retired. His district covers Ozone Park, Lindenwold, Howard Beach, Broad Channel, and the Rockaway Peninsula.
Come November, I would empower our law enforcement agencies to go out there and do their job and not put them or their families or their pensions at risk for doing their jobs. We need drastic change in Albany so that we have a say in this matter, and they realize people of New York State will hold them accountable.
The Sullivan family has a legacy of service. Tom served for 30 years protecting and defending the rights of others. Come this November, he has earned your support. This advertisement's paid for by the Friends of Tom Sullivan.
There's a handful of retired officers that don't live in the state that have a lot to say about the dream team, as I like to call it. All of a sudden, they retire and have a master plan on how to fight crime, but nothing to contribute when they were here. They want to come back and be part of the dream team. What can I say?
Law enforcement professionals dedicate their lives to serving and protecting our community, but who's protecting their financial futures? That's where Laidlaw Blue comes in. Our wealth management platform is specifically designed for the law enforcement community. Laidlaw Blue is a division within Laidlaw Wealth Management, run by retired New York City detective John McDermott. His status as a retired detective uniquely positions him to establish a deep connection between Laidlaw Blue and the law enforcement community. Our platform is easy to use and provides a range of financial services, including investment management, retirement planning, and insurance solutions. With Laidlaw Blue, you can secure your financial future and provide for your loved ones. Our team of experienced financial advisors understands the unique challenges and opportunities that law enforcement professionals face. We're here to help you navigate the complexities of financial planning and achieve your goals. Laidlaw Blue. Secure your financial future today. Book a meeting using the QR code displayed or call us directly on 888-901 Blue. That's 888-901 Blue.